back to the podcast. Hello, hi. I am me, you are you, and he is he.
Oh, got to get this hat straight. Okay.
Hi. I hope
It's not straight.
everyone is having a good time, a grand old time, as we plummet towards the sun in the US. Um,
Yeah, and as our 401ks and pensions plummet.
your 401ks and pensions plummet. I don't have any money to put into those. So
Yeah,
it doesn't. Uh, yeah.
yeah. I wanted to start our podcast with the following. You know, I'm not a fan of President Trump. You know that.
Uh-huh.
I'm the only one in the neighborhood who's not a fan of President Trump. But as I've said to you in the past, I hope he makes the right decisions because as the decisions he makes goes, so does our country.
Well, the you can place money on the horse with the lame leg as much as you want. I don't think it's going to win the race. Uh, but here's for the optimism. I appreciate the optimism.
Okay. Now, I saw an article on May 18th, 2022
Hmm.
by Michael Hildzick, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist who has been writing for the Los Angeles Times for 40 years. So he has credits. And again, this is May 18th, 2022. Uh, and he lists a bunch of Trump's failures. And you have the article in front of you, Peter?
I do.
You want to mention some of his failures?
Yeah. Let me. Actually, wait. I think I can pull it up on here. Let's do that. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. This is on. I think we're here. I'm so sad. What's going on? What is playing? Oh my God. Were you hearing any of that?
No, I saw what happened, but I don't know what happened.
I just had a massive, oh my God. So all right. So for anyone who just watched me stare at my computer screen like a weirdo for a whole moment there, I don't know what the hell just happened. I was on I tried to pull something up so that we could share it, and then an advertisement just started blasting in my ears. So I apologize if that just happened to you. When I edit this, I'll see if I can lower the audio if it showed up in there. If it didn't, then good. I just look like a weirdo. Apologies. Apologies. Okay. Um, let's see. Where does he go into there's a quotation. Let me see if I can share this, like I said, again. Let's see if we can walk through this a little bit together. Okay. We have here a number of companies that were associated with President Trump have filed for bankruptcy. The document states there can be no assurances that TMTG, that is Trump Media and Techno Group, will not also become bankrupt. Uh, And then here's some of his things. This is where he bankrupted a casino in Atlantic City.
More than
Trump,
one casino.
right, but this is one of them. The Trump Taj Mahal, which was built and owned by President Trump, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 91. Trump Plaza, the Trump Castle, the Trump Plaza Hotel, all owned by President Trump at the time, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 92. THCR, which was founded by President Trump in 95, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2004. His entertainment industry, given to the hotels and casino resorts after 2004 bankruptcy, declared bankruptcy in 2009. Okay. Trump Shuttle Inc., launched by President Trump in 89, defaulted on its loans in 90 and ceased to exist by 92. Trump University, founded by President Trump in '05, ceased operations in 2011 amidst lawsuits and investigations regarding the company's business practices. Trump's Vodka, a brand of vodka produced by Drinks Americas under license for Trump Organization, was introduced in '05 and discontinued in '11. Trump Mortgage LLC, a finance services company founded by Trump in '06, ceased operations in '07. GoTrump.com, a travel site, in 2006, ceased operations in 2007. Trump Steaks and Other Meats in '07 was discontinued 2 months after launch. You got to really fuck up for it to be, sorry, 2 months after.
Yeah, and
Uh,
you know what gets me?
what?
Casinos are supposed to be a
Yeah,
way to actually print money.
I know.
I never heard of anybody in Las Vegas who had a casino who didn't make money.
I know. It's like that's truly and honestly, if you want to have a conversation about businessmen and the ability to run a business, not only did he bankrupt a casino, but he bankrupted two casinos.
More than
Like
two.
you like I agree with you. All you have to do is set the machines up and it will print you money. People don't care. They just want to see the slots go. They just want to play cards. All you got to do is hold a building for all of that stuff. And he somehow bankrupted two of them.
Or more.
No, I think it's two, and then I think one of them was tried to be revived and then bankrupted.
Yeah. I so my point is we are now entrusting him with making decisions, economic decisions for our country.
As seen so far with our current stock market, it is very casino coded.
Yeah. Very concerned. Some people who are far smarter. I almost said thought smarter,
Fart
far smart,
smeller.
yeah, far smarter than me, and I have reasonably decent intelligence. Uh, they say, well, these tariffs are something we need because we got to fight back. We've been taken advantage of by other countries, and I agree to some extent. We have
Uh,
been,
yeah,
we've,
yeah. The narrative of short-term pain for long-term gains is,
yeah,
to be honest, the most horseshit
yeah.
in the response, because the amount of stuff that we import that we don't have the infrastructure to provide, like we don't even have the capabilities. Bananas, coffee, like certain spices, physically literally cannot be grown in America. We do not have the climate, soil, and environment for it. So it is impossible to grow some of those. And like, and not to mention, the price of everything will get more expensive. I forget who it was I saw recently on a news channel. He held up a pencil and he said, "This pencil, the wood comes from Canada. The paint comes from Brazil or somewhere else. The lead comes from either Ukraine or the US. The rubber comes from somewhere else. And the metal comes from somewhere else, the aluminum. And then they're assembled here in the US. And then you buy a box of them for $1. That that dollar pays for all of those imports. That
But you know,
same box of pencils in America, built, painted, mined, sharpened, everything, will cost minimum 10x the price.
okay. So I'm not against him charging tariffs, Peter. I'm against him going to war with tariffs. There's a difference. Tariffs uh, can be worked out between other nations in a manner that helps the United States and not doesn't harm the United States.
I
Uh,
I I I disagree completely, given the
I know you
track
do.
as per the current state of tariffs. I have not so far nothing positive has come out of
Yeah,
any of
because
these tariffs.
he's went to war with these tariffs.
But
There's a
it right,
difference.
but there's no my point being is if these tariffs are designed to cause harm, having a little bit is not going to help anyone. It's simply just it. My point is if you want to build a factory in the US that can make cheaper pencils. Do it. Why do you need to force the public to stop buying these cheaper pencils? Why not just make better pencils in the US? And if they're good, if they're genuinely good products, people will buy it. Isn't that the point of a free market?
Yeah.
Why are you forcing people through tariffs to stop buying a product that is arguably better for its price so that you
Yeah,
can
well,
have domestic factories? Who gives a shit about domestic factories if we're in a free market? So then you don't like what do you want? Do you want a free market or do you want domestic products that are way more expensive and arguably as good, maybe slightly worse than what you can get elsewhere?
yeah. Well, again, there's a difference between uh, sitting down intelligently and trying to negotiate the tariffs and being a bully about tariffs.
I know, but my
Uh,
my point circles back to the entirety of tariffs, like tariffs in its whole
no,
place. Because again, if you the point of a tariff is it forces the consumer to deal with the bill. The tariff
yes,
does nothing to the foreign agents, which
it's a tax.
for whatever every I still can't believe that there's people who don't know what a tariff is by now.
Yeah, it winds up to be a tax on us.
Yes, you are simply at just raising taxes on your general public to de-incentivize people from buying that product,
Yeah,
which is completely the antithesis of a free market. And so, like, that's the whole antithesis. If you want to sell something, you got to fight the competition. You don't get to close out the competition because they're too good.
well,
Like,
there's another thing that bothers me. There are a lot of, like we import a lot of iron and steel.
mhm.
So there's a big tariff on that, which is going to hurt our industry. They say it's not, but I say it is.
We've already
Uh,
lost something, whatever it was. How
yeah,
many trillions?
but but what bothers me is there are goods that are manufactured in the United States that don't use goods from foreign countries, and the manufacturers are passing or will be passing increased prices down to us because they figure they can get away with it,
Right,
and that's not right.
right.
Um, and in the beginning, I talked about pensions and 401ks. Uh, Somebody like you may not have a pension or a 401k, or if it is, it might be limited. Some people your age have big pension money
Most
put away.
most Gen
But
Z does not have pension or 401ks.
yeah,
At best, they've got like a year's worth that they've put into it. You know,
yeah.
like out of the time that they've been working, most
Hmm.
Gen Z probably has, if they were to retire now, maybe like a year's worth or two for their
Yeah,
pension. So,
yeah. So I look at my pension. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm not going to look at my
yeah,
pension
yeah, yeah. You gotta do
because,
one of these. Uh,
yeah, because mine is variable. It's not fixed.
yeah.
Uh, I can't complain because as the market went up with the previous presidents, uh, I absorbed the profit, as far as pensions are concerned. And now, as our beloved President Trump has instituted his economic format, I'm suffering the pain. Now, if this is going to be a short-term pain, that's one thing, but I don't anticipate that being a short-term pain.
I
And
don't I don't anticipate this being a short-term pain, in part because I saw someone say recently that part of these tariffs and this trade war that's now going on um, is showcasing it's inspiring other countries, whether it's the Asia, China, Asia area, China, Japan, and South Korea, coming together and making a pact to go against to come to relations semi for trade, or the European Union and like the United over there, um, finding ways to. I think they're planning to get rid of Amex, PayPal, and a couple of other American-made finance processes, financial transactions, I should say. Um, so these tariffs are not only like such a huge problem for obviously our economy and the global economy and America as a whole, but it's dissolving the faith that these countries had with us. It's
yeah,
dissolving this desire because it's inspiring them to say, look, these guys have been screwing around for decades. Let's just drop them now. This is the perfect time to drop them. We're strong enough. Let's come together and work together since we are willing to make something work. And we're seeing that happen live now. And so I'd seen someone say it recently that it's what's damaging about these tariffs is it goes beyond just the money. It is dissolving the relationships and the connections that have been I say built. America's a pretty bullying country to other countries, but the connections that have been made are the bridges are being burned, and
yeah,
it's not
I
going to be
agree.
something that's easy to just so go, oh, sorry, because at the end of this presidency, well, I hope it comes after 4 years. Um, at the end of this presidency, even if we get the best like the most perfect person that could fix everything and turn it all around, by that point, a lot of these countries may have moved on. And we now have to do a lot of legwork to plead and ask for connections again as a
Now, let
country.
me intercede.
I
I've been talking about for years the World Bank utilizing, the currency of the United States,
Yeah.
if you remember. All it has to do now is our countries that were destroying or weakening their economy saying, screw you, and we're going to change the format of how we use the World Bank and what we're going to do with our gold reserves and what we're going to do with our metal reserves. I mean, Trump is no fool in the sense where he says, he wants minerals from Ukraine because he knows he got to get something to pay for the billions of dollars that we have spent on the Ukrainian war. You know that he wants to take Greenland for protection, but the Greenland also has a lot of minerals and stuff.
Yeah,
So
he's not saying Greenland for the shits of it. He's saying it because there's resources there. That's
yeah,
the whole point. And
yeah,
that's of course, that's war is profitable because we are a
yeah,
war profiteering country. That's
yeah,
why we go to war so much. That's why we bomb so many places because that's where a lot of our country's money comes from. We decimate a country, we mine their minerals, and then we get a bunch of cheap products for it. That's how a
yeah,
lot of this country is built. So,
yeah.
yeah, of course. But
And
it, go ahead.
then we got the Panama Canal, and uh, now we got the Gulf of Mexico becoming the Gulf of America. And all of these are decisions made by Trump, uh, and he couldn't give a damn about what the Congress or the Senate says. And I think Congress and Senate better wake up.
Well,
And
Congress and Senate should have woken up eons ago. There, I like the whole. Unfortunately, the majority of this system needs to be tossed out and replaced, but
yeah,
that's just not possible right now. Because when I still don't know what the hell it like if we're still talking about Democrats and Republicans, I still don't know what the hell the Democratic side is trying to do.
they're
It is
nothing,
very,
nothing.
very, very clearly obvious what needs to be done. And they're sitting on their hands and just sucking their thumbs. And it's
Well, what
like,
does this remind you of, Peter? He's not allowing certain members of the press to come to meetings.
Oh yeah, the well,
You,
Associated Press just got reinstated. That so
okay.
they said that a Supreme Court order just demanded that he reinstate Associated Press because he violated the First Amendment with that. Whether that actually happens or not, we don't know because in 2025, court orders can mandate anything and he can just not do anything because the court systems take 9 years to do a damn thing or impeach or jail someone for doing something wrong, like breaking amendments. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he talks about a third term,
Yeah.
which could be a bunch of bullshit, excuse my
Well,
language.
he's finding ways like having JD Vance run
Yeah,
and then JD Vance give up the throne so that he can have another term.
yeah. Uh, he has taken foreigners out of our country that some of them are innocent. Now, I believe get rid of the gangs, get rid of people who have criminal records, but all of a sudden to come in and get rid of visas of college students.
Yes, because unfortunately, the the rhetoric of get rid of the gangs, get rid of the people who are illegal, that was always the scapegoat for what was actually going to happen. There was never a goal to actually amend whatever belief you thought was going to happen. It was always going to be get rid of people who are not white Americans. That is always it. We're dealing with that right now with the guy who went to El Salvador, and they won't return him. Uh, the United States does not have to return a Maryland man who was accidentally deported to a high security prison in El Salvador to U.S. soil by midnight, the Supreme Court ruled on Monday. Like, how do you accidentally send a Maryland man to the one of the worst and highest securities in the world? It's one of the worst prisons in the world. They get 10 minutes of sun a week. A week. They share one toilet with like 30 of them. And he's
Yeah,
sending people there because, meh, that was always the goal. That was always the plan. So anyone who believes that this rhetoric behind, oh well, get rid of these certain people, never was.
this dismantling the FBI, or let's say reorganizing the FBI, because he knows so much about the FBI and
Yeah.
the character he put in front to be ahead of the FBI
Uh,
looks like he would wipe his ass with two sides of a toilet paper.
okay.
Uh, and to get rid of those two, I can, the way he's doing it, and to put the head of the WWE's wife, or she is the head of the education department, dismantling our education department, which I agree with as being a former educator. Our education department is not good, but dismantling it and put an educator there. Choose a good educator, not somebody who is the CEO of the WWE Wrestling Federation.
Right, but unfortunately, you're asking a CEO of many failed businesses to put educated people in places of power. The man who is uneducated and consistently fails at businesses and lies and cheats and steals, you want him to put honest, capable, intelligent people around him. That that's that's oil and water. Like that
Yeah,
doesn't like that's if you voted for him, this is what you voted for. You voted for incompetence. You voted for all of this mess because unfortunately, you believed in the deep state and like oh we're getting a wrestler for the DOE is going to solve the deep state. They can fight the deep state because pro wrestling means that you're smart enough to handle some super secret anti-American organization, I guess. Like it's so dumb. It's so stupid. Oh my God.
yeah. Well, with that in mind, uh, I hope that things progress. I
It,
hope we don't start deporting anybody just because he wants to deport them. I want to see all the gangs deported. That's what I want, and all the criminals, but not innocent people. Um, I want to see some stability from what he's doing. But you know what? I've learned as an individual, and nobody knows everything. And you hire people. You can't do your tax return, you hire a CPA, a good one. You have to go to court, you don't represent yourself, you hire a good lawyer. You want to plan for the future, you get somebody who is a financial planner. Uh, you select people that are more talented than yourself so that the outcome is a good one. And he may select people he thinks are talented, but he's the one who makes the final decision.
well,
Look
he's
in the
so
past.
he's selecting
Look,
people that agree with him. That has nothing to do
yes,
with talent.
yes,
That's
yeah,
the key. It has nothing to do with talent. Most of them are not capable. Most of them are not talented.
yeah.
Most of them are hacks. They're
Look at the talented people in the first his first presidency, over 30, who quit. They quit. Certain generals who are, famed generals quit because they couldn't take the fact now he's General Trump. So I'll go back to my first statement and say, and end my conversation on him. I hope that President Trump makes good decisions from this point on. I hope because I want our country to be stable. Prior to him coming in, we had Sleepy Joe who did a crap job. Um, and we had a lot of dissension between different parts of our country. And in my mind, and I want Trump to be healthy enough to make right decisions. But in my mind, I keep saying to myself, there are a lot of crazies, in our country, and he should have increased security because there are a lot of crazies who will be losing their life savings, and a lot of people who are not crazies who become crazy, who were in 1933 they jumped off the roof. They may deal with it in a different way, and I say may God bless him and help and hope, if there is a God, that he makes the right decisions for everybody and doesn't continue being, would we call him a dictator?
some historians would say.
Okay. So I have nothing more to say about that.
Uh, I disagree. I I hope it's uh oh yeah, I don't necessarily wish him well. I'm not gonna sit here and bad, but I'm not gonna wish that man well. All that being said, oh, I meant to add in before. Uh did I meant to throw this in earlier. I pulled it up. Did you hear that the 10-year yield, the bonds are cratering? They spiked over 4.5%. That is worrying Wall
Well, you're talking
Street.
about inflation now starting or
The
deflation?
bond market, not a plunging. I'm pulling this article from NBC. Wall Street with prices tumbling and yields spiking. The 10-year Treasury yield jumped 19 basis points to 4.45%, and 1 point overnight climbed above 4.51%. The yield has rebounded through where it was the day before President Trump's tariff plan was unveiled last Wednesday and is currently the highest since February. The 30-year Treasury yield hit a high of 5.02 overnight, a level not seen since November of 2023. So our Treasury yields, which is because I think in part because wasn't China selling off some of their bonds from America? But yeah, that I meant to add that in before when I was talking about
Right.
our relations are being dissolved. That's that's one of the indicators right there.
Yeah. Well, I also remember years ago, I had bonds that were paying 16%
Jesus.
when we had inflation,
Jesus.
and then, so we got to be careful because America, prior to him becoming president, socially and politically was not on a solid ground. Now, throw in an economic problem, uh, I'm worried. So
I'd argue he's unifying for all the wrong reasons. In every sense of the word. He's got Europe making relations with other he's got European countries making relations with each other where they wouldn't have prior to him doing all these things. He's got China, South Korea, and Japan making relations in ways that they haven't had, and he's got Americans joining hands in ways that they haven't had, i.e.
well,
the
that might be a good thing, Peter.
all he may be the antichrist of unification. Like he may be unifying us through his antichrist actions.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're unifying in a good way is not a bad thing. Unifying.
I mean we had the hands off protest that happened last Friday. All
Mhm.
50 states and a couple of other countries outside of the US were protesting. Hundreds of thousands. I'm not sure if it hit the millions. I think it hit million. Uh, Across the country, every single state, 1,200 different protest spots. And they're doing another one. They're doing another one on the 19th.
Now, do you think he cares?
It's not about whether he cares because he's one man. It's about everyone else caring. It's about the people around him caring because
Yeah.
he's one guy. It doesn't like if you've ever seen the Disney movie Bug's Life, you understand. Those crickets are they know there's 1,000 of them to
Uh,
one of the crickets. When
uh,
they realize that, they can never realize that because then it becomes a problem. That's the whole point of the movie. They realize
yeah,
it and then they overtake the bad guy.
but he
That's
knows. He knows what to do when he gets into trouble. He knows what to do. Two
yeah,
words.
he knows what to
You're
do.
fired.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, no, he knows what to do. He'll bankrupt and skip to Russia, the only place he didn't put a tariff on.
So, last thing, did you ever wonder why his daughter and his son-in-law uh, aren't involved that we see on the surface with him anymore?
No.
Maybe they're smarter than him.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because they're trying to save face. Absolutely.
Okay. So I have nothing more to say. This could be a short podcast.
No, it's actually pretty long. We're creeping up on before I would have to change the tape.
Okay. So are you good with ending it?
Yeah, I think I've exhausted my rant on the the declining economy and the declining society so far. Um, I would remind everyone that a 5 pound bag of rice is very cheap, and that with instead of getting beans, you get lentils. You get the nutrients for when you can't afford stuff. Bags of lentils and rice,
Yeah,
or
there's
you're
a
probably
problem with it.
what?
There's a problem. If you eat all that rice and you save money eating the rice, then you got to buy the pharmaceutical diuretics
Well,
to get in the bathroom.
I'm
That's
talking about
expensive.
I'm talking about when you can't when food is gone.
Yeah,
Rice, lentils, beans. Beans take longer to cook. That's why you get lentils. But those are
yeah.
your two big ones you got to get, and then coffee so that you can keep yourself going.
Okay. So I'm going to say, uh, everybody be well.
As
Hope
well
for
as
the
you can.
best.
As well as you can.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
And if I'm not here in 2 weeks, it means I went out looking for
Lo-
a job.
okay.
They selling apples on the corner.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Peace out.
Bye, everybody.
Uh.